Hi, it's Terry Jensberg here with a piece of unasked for advice for my grandchildren when they get a little older. And it starts with a quote. Everyone should be able to do one card trick, tell two jokes, and recite three poems in case they are ever trapped in an elevator. That's by Lemony Snicket, who wrote a series of unfortunate events, children's author, but really master thinker. This caught my attention because now during the pandemic, preparation is a big theme in the lives of people and in my life. And I reflect on how different people react to the challenge of what if you are quarantined and you can't go out, or you're sick, or we're in a shutdown, or a disaster happens. What do you want to have on hand? Or what if there are food shortages and your favorite stuff isn't available? Toilet paper, all that. And what I've noticed in talking to other people is that people fall into a few categories in their response. One of them, this is the one I'm in, is I'll feel safer if I have a stockpile of essentials, of things I don't want to live without. So if there's a temporary shortage of, whatever, the things that would mean a lot to me to have, then I want to have them. There's another group of people who say, it's probably a good idea, but it takes too much time, too much money. I'm going to take my chances and just go forward. That's reasonable. I understand that. And then there's a third group who, I think, if I'm understanding them correctly, feel that if they prepare for an event, it means it will happen, or it's a superstitious perception that if you prepare for something, that will trigger it happening. And I'm sure people don't realize that they're feeling that, because some very, clear thinking people fall into that group. And this is interesting to me because I've seen this over and over at our office with people who have estate plans, where they will go through all the process to get the estate plan made. And it's a lot of providing us with so much information, account numbers, and the full names of relatives, and the addresses of properties. I mean, it's a lot of work. And then at the end, when it comes time to sit down and have the trust notarized to go, the lawyer does a little spiel where he explains everything that's happening. He does one last check to make sure they really understand what's happening. A notary is there, witnesses are there. It takes, I don't know, 45 minutes or an hour even. They won't show up for that. They'll put that off. So people who have a fully finished estate plan that is not in effect, because they will not do that last thing to make it real, to make it official, will go for months, years like that. And I think they have a superstitious feeling that if they have a will and a trust, they'll die. And I'm here to tell you, no, it doesn't work like that at all. There's no connection. But that's how it feels to them. And I think that people in this time of pandemic, that some people have that same feeling. Like, if I prepare, I don't know what, but bad things will happen, or things will just go out of control. It's almost like I just don't want to touch it or get near it. Now, living in the LA area, even though I live out in the suburbs, things have gone out of control. We've had rioting that came surprisingly close to the little podunk suburb I live in. Usually, rioting, and it's not very usual to have rioting, is in the downtown area or in areas that are closer to downtown, not out in the suburbs, in bedroom communities. That's unusual. But we had several last spring. We had several blocks around a shopping center that the police closed off because they had information there was going to be some kind of looting and rioting going on there. And it's very concerning. I understand the feeling like things are going out of control, and I have a feeling bad things are going to happen. And but that's more reason to prepare, not less. Now, I grew up in the LA area where from birth they tell you the big one is coming. I mean, it's like, welcome to the world, get ready for the big one. I can't remember a time I wasn't aware of that, that I wasn't bracing myself for it. It's just a part of, it's like a part of your DNA when you are born in California to be aware of earthquakes. And there's no, it's not like a tornado where you have warning. So I've always been somewhat prepared for disaster because of that. Although I do have to say, maintaining vigilance for 63 years is really hard. I mean, eventually you just want to say, oh, screw it, it's not going to happen. But of course, with every passing year, the likelihood goes up, not down. And then because my husband has cancer, and we've had some emergencies where we had to drop everything, go to the hospital, maybe be there for several hours or him for several days. I don't let myself get too low on things because I don't know when I'm going to hit a patch where I really am too tired or there at the hospital and can't go to the store. Although now, if that were to happen, I would not be allowed to go with him. And as hard as that is, personally, that's exactly correct. That is the right decision for the hospitals to make. So I tend to come down on the prepper side, but I also believe that the so-called prepper community on YouTube, Facebook, all those things, there's a kind of a fringe of people who are maybe more than a fringe who are very extreme and who are like camped out in their basements with beans and bullets and in equal amounts, and who talk about WTSH, which stands for when the blank happens. And I'm not sure what it means other than it's kind of like an Armageddon theme. When really big bad things happen, we'll be ready in our bunker. I don't associate myself with that kind of thinking, and I can see why that's given preparing a bad name. At the other end of the spectrum, you have Garden Granny, who is like, I'll show you how to. She's in her kitchen and saying, I'll show you how to can the rutabaga you grew in your yard this year. And so she's got a bunch of preparation done, but not from the military perspective. So I'm on that scale, but closer to the Garden Granny end. But the piece of advice, to finally get to the point, to my grandchildren, don't make the mistake of thinking that because something makes you nervous means you shouldn't do it, or because you don't like to think about a possibility, you shouldn't prepare for it. It's just the opposite. The more something troubles you, the better you're going to feel when you're prepared for it. Have enough introspection to recognize in yourself that you are avoiding something or resisting something for an unconscious fear, and not because it makes sense. Don't rationalize it and convince yourself that that's really the best way to go. Sometimes you have to take that part of you that says, I don't want to prepare for this because then it might make it happen. You have to set it aside and make good decisions based on reality. So that's my piece of advice for my kids, grandkids, grand. Again, thank you for listening. Talk to you later. Bye.